question for all of you to start with, which is going to be a pretty easy one. Tell us how long you've been at your company and the role that PD is playing, a little bit about your jobs as well and your role.
Yeah, great. So I'm Andre, Technology Director for Product Engineering at Nine. So it's a fancy way of saying that I look after all of the engineering teams that you'd be familiar with out of Nine. So everything from our broadcast, video on demand services and live streaming, but also to our publishing services as well. So with the purchase of Fairfax, we have Sydney Morning Herald, The Age, Australian Financial Review, and also Nine Radio, and a number of other areas of which I couldn't go into all of them because it's a very large company. I like to think it's every day is like the Super Bowl in media. At Nine, we cover hundreds of thousands of people visiting our products on a daily basis. So it's huge. From a PagerDuty perspective, look, it helps us pull all of that together really with such a disparate amount of services, products, and systems. Knowing what's happening in the environment and bringing it together is what we rely on PagerDuty for.
Super Bowl Sunday every day is that's a lot of pressure.
It can be.
Thank you, Gernam.
Yes, I'm Gunam. I've joined Wesfarmers One Digital around 10 months ago. And by the way, you may have seen a pseudo name before, West Digital. So it's good to kind of be out of that stealth mode where we've been working behind the scenes, and kind of our product just launched a few weeks ago in the market, and now we can openly talk about it. So I don't know if you know Wesfarmers or not. It's a big conglomerate with a lot of big brands, which all of you guys must be familiar with: Kmart, Bunnings, Officeworks, Catch, just to name a few. So I joined them 10 months ago. It was an exciting opportunity. We were working on some great ideas, how we could kind of bring businesses together under the Wesfarmers umbrella and solve some really hard customer problems, which kind of helps us paving the way forward for the future. In context of PagerDuty, I've used PagerDuty before as well in my previous organization. It's kind of become the right tool in our toolkits, which kind of helps people to solve the problems. Especially looking at incident management process and how we deal with that.
Yeah, thank you. Andre.
Yeah. Saurav, I'm the head of cloud and platform services at Carthels. That's a fancy way of saying I'm the guy who creates problems for people by going and asking them what more can be done and kicking down doors. I'm that guy. And car sales, as the name says, we sell cars and automotives. It has been, car sales have been around for almost 20 years, so we do have a 20 years heritage and folklore behind us. So we are pretty established. So we started off as a digital classifieds, and now we are a full-fledged digital marketplace with complete sell and buy options. And how PagerDuty fits into this, and as car sales is growing its global customer base and globally dispersed teams, PagerDuty sits at the center of all of it to kind of relate all that data back. Real-time data can't have been more critical, and bringing that together in a way that can be consumed by our engineering teams and get us the right outcomes that we want.
Yeah, so delivering that real value to your customers.
Absolutely.
And using the technology to do that. Yep, thank you. And Andre, so how are you, to Surav's point, how are you connecting what PD is doing for your organisation to the value that you're really providing your customers?
Yeah, look, I mean, like I touched on, it's the Super Bowl every day. So we're a 24/7 business, whether it's from the broadcast and television side to print and radio. Every moment counts. Our audience and our internal customers care about every minute. So, I was just looking back last week. We had State of Origin, and with our 9 Now team set records again with the amount of concurrent users that are watching the show last Wednesday. So the pressure is high from that perspective. And print's no different as well, right? As much as you could think, we produce a paper every day, and okay, maybe there's a deadline at the end of the day, and you've got a little bit of time to produce a book. Even though I still boggle at the effort to go into create a magazine or a print book every day, day in, day out, never miss a print run. So, PagerDuty for us really brings all of that story together and allows us to ensure that if and when there is a problem, that we know what the problem is, but then more importantly, who to respond to it. It's not always obvious who the right responder should be, and it's not always the case that the first person who gets the alert is the person who can fix the problem either. And with a fairly large organisation, and particularly one that is a merged company and has people that have come together from different backgrounds or different parts of the business, they don't always know each other as well as maybe a smaller organisation would. And we've all had times during the pandemic where either new people have started or it's a little bit harder to connect with each other. So we look at PagerDuty to allow us to respond to the incident quickly, but then connect it to the right people really fast as well.
Yeah, and we spoke earlier today about the changing nature of their business and streaming coming into it, and how that's also changed the customer expectation and the need to not just be getting out of paper and knowing that job is done, but the constant need to make sure that what you're actually getting out there and the streaming component is working every second. Yeah,
and the expectations are much higher. Like, I think if you look at broadcast, and I'm not in that space so much, but broadcast has been fairly similar over the last 50 some years. Yes, the resolution has increased. Yes, there's been a move to digital, but largely you produce the broadcast and you put in the antenna and you throw it to the audience, and from there it's not really your problem anymore. With our digital offerings, that is very much our problem, which is great. We have control over the user experience, but it means that not only do we produce the content, but we have to bring it all the way from producing it through to your set-top box, whether it's Apple TV or your mobile phone, that type of thing. And we're responsible for everything up to the application as well. So the scale of our responsibility and the breadth of what we need to respond to, even when there's issues, is much higher. And you're knitting together different vendors and services and applications as well, which ups that complexity quite a lot. It's good.
Yeah. And Gautam, we spoke about Wesfarmers One Digital being the new part of Wesfarmers. It's very exciting that now you can talk about it. How are you using PD, to help ensure that you're delivering value to those customers that you're now supporting?
So we've got different challenges with Wesfarmers One Digital. So I think one thing, we are a brand new organization, as you said. So I think the focus there is to get our foundations right as we grow, as we solve different problems for our other businesses. But the key thing there, which I think resonated in a few of the other talks before, was how do we kind of build that trust? Because at the end of the day, we have customers from all of these loved brands that they're trusting us, providing services which impact the end users, as well as the businesses which we are providing these services to. So I think trust becomes critical for us, and the level of standards that we have to hold then to offer these services to other divisions as well within Wesfarmers itself. And to kind of get that right, we need to really invest into getting our foundations correct. And that's where kind of PagerDuty comes in and shines. For us to make sure that we are adhering to our SLOs, our SLAs that we have promised to all the businesses and other customers. How do we kind of get that right? Also, I think then setting PagerDuty right allows us to reflect what those business services are, which are critical. What are some of the components which make those business services, and how do we align it back to the right people when there are issues, as Andre mentioned, which is critical in this day and age. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to prove to the business is, hey, we are happy to take changes out faster to the market because we are reducing the risk in terms of we can respond to issues faster. Things which used to take us 2 hours to fix, now we can fix in minutes or could be resolved automatically. So that's where PagerDuty plays a key role for us.
And especially the brands that you're supporting. Can you remind the audience the brands that you do support on One Digital?
So we've started our subscription program for Kmart, Catch, and Target. I'm just getting it right, and definitely looking forward to see how we can bring other brands onto the platform.
Awesome. Thank you. Sarav, Carsales has been a digital-first business since it launched. What are you seeing most in how your customers' expectations are evolving? We know it's all changing as, everyone expects more. And how are you really matching your tech stack to meet their expectation?
So yes, Carsales at its inception, from its inception, has been a digital-first business. But the definition of digital has changed or evolved over the years. So yes, we started as a digital business, but we had gone through our fair share of transformations. So we started off with a single website with one backend service, and it was hosted in a data center. Then we made a cloud journey, so a cloud-first approach to scale better, be more resilient. As Kunal was saying, resilience is something that our customers demanded. And again, understanding this, we started as a digital class feeds because that's what the customer needed. But now, and as I like to say, the reason we moved from our data centers to our cloud was because we wanted a virtualization of our assets. But now customers need a virtualization of their experience. Yeah. So people need to be comfortable sitting at their on their sofas and ordering a car from a website rather than going and talking to a dealer. That's how digitization, or as I like to say, digital proactive customers have evolved, right? Yeah. And that's what we are trying to solve, right? For us to become more trustworthy for our customers so that they can order products, even as big as cars, right? From a digital website, even without inspecting, looking, and being delivered to them, or they can collect it from once they have signed off on it, right? That's the customer need or the digital need that has evolved. Right? Yeah. And the tech stack has to evolve with that. With a cloud-first approach, we have ensured that to support our globally dispersed set of customers, because we have been global almost 20 years. But to be honest, I don't think we have invested a lot in our global markets, which we are starting to do now, because we see real value in tapping into the global experience of products, global workforce, and that global clientele to understand how demand changes geographically, how demand changes culturally, and how car sales can be at the forefront on meeting some of these demands and helping with our revenues. Yeah. So the tech stack that has evolved, things like PagerDuty, which PagerDuty has a cloud-first approach. Yeah. And I love that because it allows us to talk about data sovereignty, because that's a big thing. When you are operating at a global scale, data sovereignty is one of those key aspects that you have to look into. So we absolutely want to partner with global partners, PagerDuty, AWS. These are global partners. You guys know the challenges an organization scaling globally might face and may already have solved for it. So we can tap into that information to kind of allow for us to better reach out to our customers. So yes, that's the idea. Partner with the great people such as PagerDuty.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Awesome. Andre, so we spoke earlier and we talked about PD being the glue as part of your tech stack. Can you talk a little bit about what that actually means, and then how it really translates to the wider business and how that actually, impacts your customers?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's what I was touching on before, and I think Chris spoke about it as well, about how his teams function as well. I think if I look at the teams that I'm responsible for, we're all build and run software engineering teams, and that wouldn't come as a surprise to most people in the room. But effectively, it means that you're not only creating the software and deploying it, but when it comes to responding to the incidents, you're coming back to that, and you are responsible for making sure that your services are online and are available. Now, the challenge with that is those teams are only responsible for their part of the universe, I suppose. And so if and when they rely on other parts of the organization or other services, and there's other dependencies that they have to rely upon, we have to knit that together in some way. And I think, like I touched on, we look at PagerDuty to help us do that by, when we do get an alert, it lands mostly in one of the product engineering teams. They'll look at the issue, try to resolve it if they can. But in the case where they do have a dependency that they can't manage themselves, they will have to reach out into the rest of the business. And it's a large company. Like I think in software engineering in our group, there's about 250 people. In the wider technology group, it's 400 plus. And then there's a larger business beyond that that's producing content and involved in the business itself. So when it comes to reaching out and connecting to the right person at the right time, we need a system to do that, and for that system, it's PagerDuty.
Yeah, and Gurtam and Surav, you very much have a similar model with the build it, own it model.
Yeah.
There's no other way in your words. We had breakfast this morning and we were talking about this and how it's the only way they can see it can really work efficiently.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like build and run is the norm. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you got to think about, it's all about reducing the risk, right? When I think that there's somewhere where I read an article, why would you have people who have never worked on the software look after your product? If you look at it, kind of says that all.
Jen's music to my ears, yes. Yeah, very true, very true. All right, Gurtam, Wesfarmers One Digital has obviously been in the midst of a big transformation. It's a newly formed group as part of Wesfarmers. And you're doing it while having to really be aware of privacy and privacy regulation. Everyone is very concerned about everything that they do. How have you been able to meet the rising consumer expectation on that? And even as we're trying, you're trying to bring all of these new businesses together, how have you kind of been able to manage regulation and bringing new innovation into the market?
Yep. I think, look, the opportunity there for us was because we were starting from scratch. So we could actually think about the principles that we wanted to adhere to and not just get into solution mode, into solving things. And to talk about some of the principles which are probably going to help with some of those, like talking about privacy, privacy by design or security by design are some of our key principles that we follow. And we have talked about having the right people to support that process. We've talked about how that within our ways of working, how do they get embedded? So every time we are making either an architecture decision, an engineering decision, or a business decision, these aspects are considered. We think about how do we store data, how do we, what's our responsibility of how we are sharing that data across. So I think it starts with defining those key principles as we kind of mature some of our functionality. In terms of bringing the businesses together, I think what again, as one of the principles, what we have done is, and learning from some of the great partners, is apply that SaaS model thinking. We are offering these services to our other businesses. Why don't you provide the same high quality of services that you expect from other vendors or partners? So I think that's what allowed us to really come along together, make sure we are building our systems which would scale. But of course using AWS or cloud native capabilities in our case to make sure we can come up or manage demands that are coming more towards in the future. But also taking beyond technology, like just taking an example of having customer success managers for our other businesses, applying that SaaS model thinking, working along closely with them, making sure we have shared goals and shared outcomes, which play a big part. And I think some of those key foundations are going to help us make sure we're ready for some of the challenges coming. I always find tech is the easy part. We can scale, we can manage. It's making sure how do you bring people together. That's the tough one to solve.
But laying really great foundation for growth. It's amazing. So Andre, we've spoken a bit about you've come into the Nine organisation from Fairfax Media. So really bringing two quite different organisations together. And I'll quote you on something that you said to us earlier was the pride in which the publishing business had in the Sydney Morning Herald, never missing a print run in 180 years. So amazing, and certainly something to be proud of, that's for sure. Now, have you been able to match what is really a true legacy business with a business which is digital first in today?
Yeah, good question. Like, it's a funny one. Like, I don't know if that quote is true or not, but
we'll just say it is.
It certainly focuses the mind every day when if there are incidents towards the end of the day where we're at deadline and the journalists start worrying quite a bit. Look, it's an interesting one. I think print is probably the ultimate legacy business at this point. Like Sydney Morning Herald's been in print since I think the 1830s. From an overall legacy in the true sense of the word, it's a business with a long history. So we feel really proud getting that product out every day and then turning it into a digital product on a 24/7 basis as well. But yeah, look, the challenge The challenge is an interesting one because we take what is now a digital-first cloud-native product in AWS, and our publishing systems are all homegrown, and our journalists are using digital publishing services. But at some point during the day, we have to turn that into a printed book as well, and that's where the rubber hits the road. Mm-hmm. The deadline is looming every day, day in, day out, and PagerDuty really allows us to ensure that stays on track, and that we can turn what is a piece of digital content, or a number of pieces of digital content, into a print product on a regular basis. It's an interesting one, but one that so far we've managed to keep going every day. There was a day last year in our we had a small cyber incident, you may remember, where it was touch and go for a couple of hours, but we still got the paper out that day, and so at least on my part here at Nine, we've managed to continue that legacy.
Yeah, awesome. Surav, you spoke a little bit earlier about cloud transformation and what carsales went through in moving away from data centers into the cloud. Now, can you tell me a little bit about what you were really trying to accomplish with that in a little bit more detail? I know you touched on it a bit before, but also the role that PD has played in helping you get there.
Yeah, the whole idea for us to migrate our workloads from data centers to cloud, as all other businesses are at the moment, was to get that scalability, right? To what I believe, an organization is not working globally if it can't scale up globally. I can't, and to the true meaning of that would be being able to spin up instances across the world, and cloud allows us to do that, right? Starting from feature modulation to data regulation, all of these changes can be highly controlled and sliced up and diced up in a way that we wanted to go and reach to the customers which are globally dispersed the way we wanted to, right? And that's what cloud has enabled us to do. And also it has allowed us to have that end-to-end observability. So tools like PagerDuty, New Relic, which we highly use, they absolutely integrate very well together and with cloud, and allows us to have that end-to-end observability and response. And one of the things that Jen highlighted before was the way that we can better our customer experience is not just knowing about an incident before the customers do. Yes, that's one level to it. But for me, an ideal case scenario would be responding to an incident before even my employees do. So PagerDuty being my automated operations management system. PagerDuty being able to solve an incident at 3 a.m. in the morning and sending me a report when I get up, fresh in the morning at 9, saying, yes, this has been solved, I have done this, and that's it. And I think cloud enables us to do that. Automation enables us to do that. PagerDuty enables us to do that. We just need to invest in the right tool, in the right mindset, and I think it's not a future very far out. It's definitely achievable now with the new features being launched.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Can you talk about how many countries are you servicing these days?
At the moment, so we are servicing Latin America. We have recently acquired our businesses in South Korea, and also we have invested in US, Trader Interactive, 49% in the stocks. So yeah, these are some of, and again, the intention is for us to grow, to become more globally invested organization and reap from that benefit.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think a lot of people probably still think as carsales is just being in Australia.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Yeah, very exciting. So Gurnan, when we spoke earlier, you said something that was really interesting, which was the issue that engineers don't have the time or space to focus on business problems. How is it the PD is effective in helping you really manage that and generating more time for your engineers? We talk about, time being so important and not having enough time to do things. How are you really creating the space for your engineers?
Yep. I think it's good to just acknowledge. I think Jennifer kind of mentioned that in her talk as well, the amount of time that's available. I think the good way to look at it, I was having this discussion with Andre, is if you think about the full stack engineer definition, at one point of time, it was just like front end or back end. But now, what is it, right? Hey, you need to know security, you need to know your cloud, your infrastructure. And every time I hear, we are decentralizing something, moving something left, that means the burden is also shifting left towards the engineers. The next one I keep on hearing is data. We're going down that data mesh side, AI, ops, we're kind of decentralizing that. So I think it's good to kind of just acknowledge the amount of burden that is kind of shifting left for good reasons, because at the end of the day, it's going to help us accelerate, right? But in terms of what PagerDuty can do to kind of help is I think the key things for us is to first invest in the foundations and the right toolings that are available. I think Chris mentioned, I'm not sure if I've lost that, right?
You're back.
Chris mentioned that before as well, having the right platform teams to support, providing the right tools to the teams, which are helping them to accelerate and kind of providing that X-fold impact across product engineering. From a PagerDuty perspective, I think the key thing there is how do we help one cut the noise across so much information that's coming through to us. That's where I think some of the smarts around event orchestration that I looked at, I think is going to help as well. Apart from that, I think we also need to shift towards more of a proactive kind of monitoring. And then I think from a proactive perspective, people talk about what you're observing. I think rather than that, we need to shift towards cause the chaos yourself. So you're ready, so start embracing some of the chaos engineering practices and things like that. Don't wait for something to break and then learn. It is going to break. Might as well just break it yourself in a controlled environment, learn from it. And that's where kind of, again, PagerDuty plays a key role.
Practices ourselves,
having those runbooks, things like that for us to kind of resolve. So,
Yeah, and I think you both talked about the same thing. There's so much noise, and there's so trying to create space for the engineers is challenging.
That's the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So Andre, how do you find ways to bring the right experts into what can be quite complex problems? So I know you've talked about there's lots of brands, there's lots of platforms, you've got legacy, you've got all the new things that are happening as well. How are you trying to get the right people onto resolving some of those issues?
Yeah, look, I mean, like we said, it's a noisy environment, right? And I think the thing that we're doing is trying to bring some of that tooling together so we're all speaking the same language. And so one of the big things that we're working on is just bringing together our ServiceNow implementation that to have it connected up to our PagerDuty instance, to also speak to Slack as well. For a long time, we had PagerDuty connected to a custom Slack bot that we built that also integrated into ServiceNow, and that's did well. But I think as we've expanded our integration and brought our teams closer together, and not only had product engineering working somewhat in isolation, but connected to the rest of the business, then we found it increasingly important that everyone's speaking the same language. So. So we're actually in the process of, and I spoke to some of the guys today who are down here today, pulling together the ServiceNow to PagerDuty connection, and we're already seeing a lot of value in that, and also deploying the Slack bot that connects to that, and retiring some of our custom integration that does a similar thing, but maybe not as quite tightly integrated. So I'm really looking forward to having that in production and making sure that all our teams are effectively speaking the same language, because at times we've had to kind of translate between what does product engineering call something versus what does group IT call something, and we're talking about the same thing. Okay, great. Okay, let's solve the problem where in the future and increasingly that will become just the exact same language.
Yeah, and to your point, we've seen a lot of benefit with other organisations who have made that integration, because there is the, hate to say it, more legacy parts of the business that may have the ticket work, but we're really around real-time work that needs to be solved at that moment in time, and that's what we're really supporting. But keeping those people informed as well for a cohesive.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a lot of value in ServiceNow. I think it helps a lot to organise our work across the group, and if anything, there's opportunities for that tooling to come into my product engineering space more than it does today, just so that we are, again, all speaking the same languages, working on the same tools, making sure that every part of the business knows, what the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, etc.
Yeah, understand. All right, so one final question for everyone. You've heard from Jennifer and Dormain today around what we're doing in our newest product releases and what's coming. So how can PD bring more value to your organisations?
Look, I mean, I think the things that I was excited by that I saw today was probably in the automation and workflow side of things. Anytime I can lower the noise for our teams or make it easier for them to respond to incidents and respond not only directly and quickly, but in the same way each time, then that's a benefit. And so that's something I'll be looking for in the future and a little bit more today, probably.
I can see you both nodding your heads there saying yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think absolutely that. I think the other couple of things I'm quite keen to understand is as the AI ops capabilities mature, one thing which I feel is the ability to detect anomalies and somehow correlate with what's going on is super valuable. So that's something definitely keen to understand.
And even just being able to respond in an automated fashion.
Yeah.
I would love for my engineers to allow them time to innovate rather than just go in and do those repeated items, because which we can use PagerDuty for, an automated system for.
Yeah.
I would love, and I know my teams are going to kill me because this adds on to their plate, but automated actions and incident workflows would be things that I would love.
It'll add to their plate now, but it will make it easier in the
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
And one thing, again, need to know more about status pages. Again, as we said, we are applying that SaaS model. So for us, it's really important to expose what our services are, what are the health of it, to kind of build that trust. So really looking forward to know more.
It's a very exciting capability that's coming soon. So yeah. Well, look, thank you all for being part of the panel today. We really, really appreciate it. I'm sure you all learnt a lot from what these guys have been doing. Very forward-thinking organisations, and we're very happy to be in partnership with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.